now we will have our sustainability panel with David Gremmels and Tafline Laylin. So Rogue Creamery's David Gremmels is at home in many arenas with wide-ranging interest and expertise, from 1950s beat art to long-distance cycling, from fine woodworking to vintage trucks and German short-haired pointers. A principled entrepreneur, he walks a walk of ethical business at his dairy and at Rogue Creamery, the company he has stewarded since 2002. In his spare time, he advances the cause of American cheese and advocates for the handcrafted food from his unique culinary corner of Southern Oregon. Tafline Laylin is a former environmental journalist with bylines in The Guardian, NBC News, Aussie, and a variety of other publications. She currently leads digital and social strategy at Darigold, working closely with Northwest Dairy Association producers to learn about life on the farm, and edits the Daily Churn, which charts innovation in global dairy. Our panel is titled Metrics That Matter, a view across the dairy supply chain. With that, we want to welcome David and Tafline.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that introduction, Chris. And Tafline, I think we flipped a coin and I'm going first. Is that right? All right, good. I'll share my screen here and there we go. Let me just move that to full screen. Good. Everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
All right, good. Well, certainly I spent a few hours just thinking about metrics that matter. You know, at Rogue Creamery, we have about 34 metrics that align with us socially and environmentally and economically, that really showcase us as being a B Corp and making a difference in all those areas. And as Parker Cooper and Sean Fells, who you heard on the video, shared their stories, they are very much involved in the metrics that align with the organoleptics of our cheeses at Rogue Creamery, which are 27 organoleptics. So really, I decided to take an approach and bring you into the world of Rogue Creamery, and that is an approach in analyzing your impact and how to select metrics that matter. And so at Rogue Creamery, what we do is we look at our goals and we align those goals certainly with our vision and mission. And we certainly all as companies have missions and visions. And we look at the big picture goals and what the challenges might be and certainly what the opportunities might be. And this year was really like no other year. I know we all relate to that. And my sales stopped in March, and I used to sell bulk cheese as 70% of my sales, but it pivoted in June. So a lot of requests for pre-packed cheese that was exact weight. So it was a real challenge because we don't have the packaging system, but an opportunity. And so thinking about that and thinking about, oh, here is an opportunity to create a metric that would support the same volume going to our distributors and our consumers, but also increasing our brand reach because we're labeling our cheeses in individual pieces. So we created metrics around those goals and thought deeply about those goals and what those objectives might be. One, continuing to produce cheese and move cheese from our cheese caves to cheese counters, as well as refrigerated cheese cases at independent retailers and regional retailers and global retailers like our friends at Whole Foods. So that was a metric, is how can we continue to do that and strive to achieve the same volume and support our employment and support that milk coming into our facility. So we implemented a plan, an outreach plan to our neighboring retailers, from New Season's Market of Choice to Fred Meyer to Albertsons and Safeway, and working with the dairy farmers of Oregon to do such, and certainly working with national retailers like Whole Foods and Kroger, and creating indicators and measuring our progress towards our goal, certainly trying to achieve the goals we set in 2019 for 2020, though we didn't quite make them. But I'm very proud of the successes, and those metrics really drove us and helped us in telling our story with our customers. So metrics are a powerful, transparent tool in telling a story and providing the indicators. And certainly there's the quantifiable aspect and tracking those metrics. So and then finally is the outcome. And I shared what that outcome was: moving to pre-pack exact weight. So that's a strong example. So again, defining goals, objectives, describing the outcome, indicators, and defining the metrics and outcome measures. So it's a good case study to understand and think about, and it's certainly very personal because it's a Rogue Creamery case study. And so all of our metrics really align first and foremost with our values. We all have values as companies, and our values are simply 5 words: safe, healthy, positive, and other-centered. These underpin Rogue Creamery and our impact that we have with our team members, which is the Rogue Creamery family, our community, our vendors, our guests and customers, our guests who visit our store, and our customers who enjoy the cheese at their table, and of course our industry. So, and we also look at how we can have a positive impact environmentally, socially, and economically. So just at a very high level, these are a few metrics that we look at Rogue Creamery. And in organic farming, and wow, I was just so taken by the presentation of Dr. Frank Milhonen, and I've added him to my hero list because I really, that hero list also includes Alan Savory and Judith Schwartz, where she wrote the book Cows Can Save the Planet, and through intensive grazing program and building topsoil and sequestering carbon in that topsoil and the retention of rainwater, as well as a runoff. And we need that because you can see where our dairy borders the wild and scenic Rogue River. It's very vital that we build our topsoil. So we're building at about 0.1% each year, and just doing our part in sequestering carbon in that topsoil through intensive grazing programs. Energy consumption is really monitored, as well as energy production through our photovoltaic system, where we offset our energy consumption by about 30%. And the industrial metrics, of course, power use, water, natural gas, all valuable resources that we're trying to reduce while we increase production. So creating efficiencies, and of course, reducing our waste. And then offsetting our carbon impact through our Nellie Green Pedal program, one of my favorite programs. It started as an idea, and 2 businesses, one of my favorite breweries and I got together, and we decided to offer a bicycle to each team member that would pedal 40 round trips to and from their home to our work. And it became a social impact, a very positive impact, allowing team members that lived outside of transit districts, giving them an ability to pedal to a bus stop and then ride in. Well, it wasn't fair to all team members because team members lived further out, so they were commuting. So we incentivized people to carpool and take public transportation, as well as walk to work. So, so there's a really positive social impact that we made that is quantified daily and then reviewed monthly, and the team is incentivized, as well as volunteerism is supported by Rogue Creamery and tracked daily. So we're very proud of our team and their volunteerism in our community. So we measure the successes, and we've also measured our failures. So, and this is really done transparently through third parties. And so there's an accountability aspect, and through our organic practices and our certification through Oregon Tilth, the survey, which I recommend that all Oregon businesses take through Oregon Best 100 companies, as well as best green businesses, and as well as the farm audit, as well as certified humane through Validus and other certification groups. And the one that I'm most proud of is our B Corp certification. We've been a B Corp since 2013, one of Oregon's first B Corps. And there are nearly 4,000 companies from 150 industries and 74 countries who are B Corps. And you can see on this list the number of dairy-based businesses that are B Corps. Ben & Jerry's, Cabot, Stonyfeld, Danone, and there are more. And we welcome Tillamook to that list of B Corps and being a part of the B Corp family and using business as a force of good. So we take, it was an annual audit that moved to every other year. Now it's every 3 years, and those scores are published. So it's a way of transparently sharing our metrics of impact on a social, on an economic, and environmental level. And as you can see, we're at 136.6 in our last audit that was in I believe that was 2019. And so we're just gearing up for a new audit, and we just hope to incrementally increase. So the threshold is 80. And so we're proud to share that we're part of the top 10% of B Corps worldwide. And so as you can see, your governance is scored, your workers, the benefits and wages and hiring practices, your engagement within community, as well as environment. So there is a B Corp assessment that everyone is welcome to take, and just gives you an idea of where you stand, and it gives a great barometer as to where you can also improve in business. So at Rogue Creamery, we're just simply people dedicated to sustainability, service, and the art and tradition of creating the world's finest handmade cheese. Thank you.
That was wonderful, David. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And now we'd like to welcome Tafline from Darigold. Welcome.
Super, thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be here and represent Darigold and the Northwest Dairy Association. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Okay, everyone can see that?
We can, yes.
Okay, there we go. So listen, I'm excited to share a little bit about a stewardship and sustainability journey. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about Darigold and the Northwest Dairy Association. So we have our farmer-owned co-op is comprised of about 350 farm families, which have herd sizes from 50 cows to maybe nearly 10,000 cows. Our producers are spread out across 4 states: Washington, Montana, Oregon, and Idaho. And we have 11 processing plants in those areas. And we are committed to social responsibility and sustainability. We've been around for over 100 years, consistently following best practices and learning and growing. We embrace a spirit of continuous improvement. A lot of our producers have been awarded and recognized for their leadership by the Innovation Center for U.S. Dairy, including Brookhaven Dairy, Skyridge Farm, Vanderhoek, Rickreal, and Royal Dairy. And then on the processing side, we've also received some accolades, and this, some of the examples include recognition of our energy and water savings programs, and our waste management programs. We're consistently chipping away, consistently taking small steps that add up to a cumulative impact to manage our natural resources as efficiently as possible. And yet at the same time, we are aware that consumers are increasingly concerned with where their food is coming from and how it's being produced. They want to know that they are not contributing to ecosystem disruption and so forth. And so the Northwest Dairy Association established standards and guiding principles, extremely robust. They were designed to meet the requirements of the Farm ES program. They cover food safety and quality, animal health and welfare, farm employment, and environmental stewardship. And our members are required to abide by these standards and guiding principles in order to maintain membership in our cooperative. That being said, we have a lot of overachievers in our co-op who love to go above and beyond, and just a few examples of many include Natural Milk, which has been working for years in Washington to incorporate Barcor technology, which uses mechanical vapor recompression to treat wastewater, and the result is clean water and a highly concentrated ammonia that can be used for a fertilizer. And then we have Royal Dairy, who I think many people may be aware of. They established this massive vermiculture facility using worms to treat their wastewater. And that work has resulted in some really, really powerful environmental gains. They're able to mitigate the formation of up to 100% of the methane that is associated with a standing lagoon. They're treating, recycling about 274 million gallons of water every year. They're offsetting 35,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent each year. And then they're also performing, these worms are also performing some other services, including treating, preventing 91% of nitrogen, which is a big deal, 92% of phosphorus, 89% of volatile suspended solids, and 97% of total suspended solids. So very powerful, holistic, nature-based solution to nature challenges. Then we have Darigold, who recently worked with Brightmark and Promise and other partners to upgrade an aging digester to a biomethane digester. That system is basically now treating about 150,000 gallons of effluent every day, capturing the methane from that effluent, compressing it, and pumping it into the Williams Northwest pipeline to make renewable natural gas for fuels. So they have displaced 1.4 million gallons of gasoline every year with this program. So these are just a few examples of some of the work that's being done, but we recognize at the Northwest Dairy Association in Darigold that in order to achieve even greater impact, we need to be aligned with our industry partners and our, the whole supply chain, all of the stakeholders across the supply chain. Here's why. So at the moment, I think you all know, we are facing increasing regulatory, judicial, and societal pressures. We know that if our natural resources are not managed properly, that can result in groundwater issues related to nitrogen or phosphorus. And we know that there has been quite a bit of misinformation that has eroded consumer trust. So where do we want to be? we want to be part of the solution. We want to help resolve these societal issues. And we also know, and increasingly the science is clear, and particularly thanks to Dr. Mitloehner, who my colleague mentioned earlier, we know that if we can, for example, just as one example, mitigate methane emissions, we can help have a global cooling effect, which is really powerful. We can also use new technologies and holistic systems like the vermiculture to regenerate clean water. But at the same time, it's absolutely critical in our view that we're advocating for our producers. At the end of the day, it's their land, it's their resources, and we need to make sure that they are not going to get the short end of the stick, that they can realize benefits, fiscal and environmental, in terms of their business operation, and then also improve their social license to operate. So the other challenge that we face is, I think companies globally and governments globally are hearing the voices of consumers, and they're looking to their supply chain to help resolve some of these challenges. And so before my time, I've been at Darigold for about 2 years. Before my time, I think particularly it was a challenge where you had different companies sending in surveys and asking to report against, different metrics, and every company had their own system. And so I think what's happened is that the dairy community has gotten together in a very impressive way to streamline those initiatives, make sure that we're reporting against the same metrics and that those are metrics that genuinely matter, and that they also align with some of the global initiatives. And so we need to make sure that the work that we're doing is matching up with the global imperatives, for example, the UN sustainability goals, reducing poverty or eliminating poverty, ensuring the good health and well-being of citizens, ensuring clean water and sanitation, driving work and economic growth in a healthy and sustainable way. And so we are super, super grateful to the Innovation Center for U.S. Dairy for all of their hard work and leadership. We are founding members of the Stewardship Commitment. And this is sort of how that ecosystem works. So in the U.S. market, the Innovation Center for U.S. Dairy is aggregating stakeholders, co-ops, processors, producers, NGOs, and other industry partners. The Dairy Sustainability Alliance provides a regional forum for these stakeholders. And then the Stewardship and Sustainability Framework for U.S. Dairy provides the measurement and reporting platform to make sure that we're all aligned and that we're all working towards the same pre-competitive goals. And then of course, the Stewardship Commitment demonstrates our alignment and collaboration. And so our cooperative and our leaders have been really, really active in this work. Our CEO, Stan Ryan, is on the board of directors of the Innovation Center for U.S. Dairy. Stan Ryan and Steve Matson, our vice president of NDA, are on the Stewardship Commitment Task Force. And Anton Mikkelsen, who is our director of farm practices, is also very, very active on additional communities and work groups, and has been really foundational to some of the sustainability practices that we've developed. And he helped work on the Farm ES program. So very, very influential people on our team who are driving this work. And so from the consumer perspective, by adopting the U.S. Stewardship Commitment, we are affirming to customers in the global marketplace our pledge to responsible dairy production as we nourish the communities we serve. So a little bit more about the Stewardship Commitment. I think it demonstrates an ongoing commitment to working collectively across the industry, pre-competitively, committing to customers and third party to engage and support their work, and partnering with influencers and peers. And then constantly improving, always availing ourselves of the best-in-class tools, making sure that we are aware of the latest science and then embracing that science. And then, of course, reinforcing our longstanding values. And then finally, and this piece is really critical, is making sure that we are tracking and reporting our progress. I think we are sort of in the early stages of this. I think a lot of dairy companies are, but it's really critical for consumers and customers, and that we are we're tracking and then reporting and demonstrating, being very transparent about our journey and our progress. So when we talk about metrics, we use as part of our commitment, we have this processor handbook tool, and there are 19 indicators and metrics that go everywhere from, I think a lot of people think about just the environmental sustainability piece, the energy and water and so forth, but this also covers worker safety and food safety and so forth. So very robust, very, very comprehensive, very powerful work that's being done. And we are very excited to continue this journey. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tafline, for that. Very much appreciated. So we've got a few minutes for questions here, and just we'll divide them between the two of you. David, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay. A question, just curiosity, one of the attributes you mentioned in your values was an other-centered environment. That was, can you define that a bit?
Yeah, certainly. And just taking an approach that we're engaged in the success of those around us, as well as the success of our community, and being proactively a positive impact in the environment. So just striving to have a positive and healthful and safe impact in all that we have control in impacting. So, and very much aligned with the Rogue Creamery values and culture here. I think a great example of that is our Cheeses Love program. We heard about the wildfires, and we really wanted to help out in a way that would provide sustenance to those in need. And certainly individuals were impacted not only by the pandemic, but over 2,700 structures were lost. So these are families who needed food, and so we worked with Rogue Food Unites that brought nearly 30 restaurants together to provide about 200 meals per restaurant. And so we provided cheese, and we created the cheese. We couldn't continue to do it sustainably alone. So we invited the community to participate. And so for every block of Cheeses Love that's purchased, we'll donate an equal amount of cheese to Rogue Food Unites and the Southern Oregon Food Bank, which is called Access.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, David. Tafline, thank you for sharing. There's some very interesting projects there on methane reduction. You mentioned the one where they were using a natural solution like worms there. It occurred to me with what Dr. Mitloner shared this morning with their reduction in California and being able to track that. Is there you mentioned being early in that journey. Is there a similar goal to aggregate all of that and say, here's what we delivered in total?
On the methane reduction, you mean?
Yes.
Well, gosh, I don't think, as far as I know, I mean, I don't think that there are specific methane goals for us. I know that California has some specific methane goals, but I think what I really admire about the dairy community is the way that they have come together and banded together to work on things on a collective basis. And so for example, the Stewardship Commitment, which I mentioned, encompasses 30 companies and about 3/4 of the milk supply working towards the same common goals, which are to track against those 19 different indicators and metrics that we talked about earlier that are laid out in the processor tool. I think there is a lot of momentum around this at the moment. I think it's a very, very exciting time. I think it's super, super critical that we remain grounded in our approach as we go forward, that we make sure that we all have a very solid accounting of our baseline before we go charging forward, to make sure that we are building trust with consumers, so that we are being very transparent and that we are being very accurate with the work that we're doing. Yeah, so I don't think in terms of the metrics that matter, I don't think that methane, for example, is more important than water or more important than worker safety. I think I think everything is important to maintain, but with a view towards ensuring that producers are properly compensated for the work that they're doing.
Absolutely, such an important piece to make sure they're covered as well for their hard work. So,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. We've run out of time, but I want to thank you both for your wonderful presentations on yet another very important topic. So thank you both very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.